Happy Friday, everyone. We are back for our weekly video and welcome. So glad you're here. This week's video is really a follow-up video from last week. So if you did not see that, I highly encourage you to go check out our meal planning video. I share with you how I created a really powerful system for meal planning for dinners for my family. And today's really a follow-up to that. We are going to talk about how to shift and grow your go-to recipe list without creating rebellion, okay? So I know most of us, when we think about improving the way that we're eating, it gets a little scary. It can get a little overwhelming because we think, wow, we're gonna have to start from scratch because nothing I'm making right now fits this whole food, plant-based parameters, right? So I'm going to share with you today how to not make this overwhelming, how to take it step by step in a way that's going to be doable for you as the person that's creating these meals, and also for your family who is hopefully not going to freak out if you go about it the way that I'm going to teach you today. So if you're new to these videos, welcome. My name's Danielle Dinkelman. I'm a National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and I am here to help you upgrade your nutrition, prioritize your self-care, and take charge of your habits. So if you haven't joined us inside of our free Facebook group where this live video happens every week, go ahead and search for Journey to Healthy Living with Danielle Dinkelman and join us inside there so you don't miss out on the discussions we have inside there, and we'd love to have you. So let's get right to it. Like I said, I know how overwhelming it can be to first learn that we should be having more whole foods and less processed foods and more plant foods and less animal foods. And that can feel really overwhelming because it is so starkly different than most of the way we are eating as we're growing up in the United States. It's just, we call it the standard American diet, and it's not at all healthy, and I know what that's like because I grew up that way, because that's all we knew, right? So I'm gonna help you kind of have a little bit of an exercise to sit down and do to help you with your starting point here. And if you're a little further along in your journey, this can still be a helpful exercise to kind of revisit from time to time. If you kind of feel yourself kind of going a little more off track than you'd like to be. And it's also really helpful to know and to share this with other people that are making this transition. They're curious about the way you eat. This is a really powerful thing that you could invite them to do so that they don't get overwhelmed or do too much too fast to make their families hate this whole idea. So first of all, the whole idea of this is that you want a list of all of your go-to recipes to create your weekly meal plans from. And that's what we talked about in the video last week. Well, a lot of us, as we start this journey, we would maybe write down all of those things that we normally make for our family, and maybe none of them really fit that whole food plant-based parameter that you are wanting. So I'm going to teach you how you can get started. So first of all, go ahead and make that list. Just write down all of the things that you normally make for dinner. Let's just focus on dinner for now, for your family, okay? Once you do that, you kind of want to just remind yourself of what the parameters are that you're looking for, and I'll review those now in case you're like, what are you talking about, this whole food plant-based thing, Danielle? So basically, green light foods are 5 food groups from the plant kingdom. So we're looking for fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes or beans, and nuts and seeds. Those are our 5 food groups that we really want to be creating our meals from. Now, the red light, kind of what I would call my hit list, the things I'm going to be trying to eliminate or the things I'm going to be trying to minimize in a whole food plant-based lifestyle, we are going to be letting go of meat. That includes beef, chicken, fish, all those things, all meats, eggs, and dairy. So that's your cheese, your ice cream, yogurt, all of these things, okay? So just so we're on the same page, that's what I'm talking about today. Now, do you have to do this overnight? Absolutely not. And you can use this system that we're going to talk about today to take it a step at a time. So first off, just write down those recipes that you are used to making for your family. And then I want you to grab 3 different colored pens or highlighters, or you could just like circle and underline in parentheses if that's easy for you. I like color coding stuff. So grab 3 different colors. We want green, yellow, and red. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this list. Let's say you have like 9 to 12 dinners that you normally make for your family. I want you to take a close look at each of those dinners that you wrote down, and with your green highlighter, you're going to highlight the ones that are pretty darn close to a whole food plant-based option. Some examples might be a vegetable soup that you make for your family, or if you have a stir fry that you make for your family that's very vegetable based, or a curry that you like that's very vegetable based. If there's some pastas that you make, spaghetti is pretty naturally can be a whole food plant-based dish or pretty close to it. So go ahead and highlight all those. You might be surprised, pleasantly surprised, that there will be a few things that you already make for your family that are really on track with what you're trying to do here. Now, also highlight the ones that you think really just need 1 or 2 tiny tweaks, maybe letting go of the oil that's in there, or maybe letting go of a little added sugar that's in a sauce, or if it's a small tweak to make, then so much that your family, if you made that dish for your family, they would still recognize it as one of their favorite meals, and they wouldn't really think like, oh, what did you do? What did you change? It's nothing sneaky. It just is what it is. Okay, so we're gonna highlight those in green. That's your green light list, okay? Now grab your yellow highlighter, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna highlight all of the meals that you could look at and say, you know, I bet there is a vegan version of this or a whole food plant-based version of this out there somewhere. I just need to learn what that would look like. I need to go find a recipe for that. So some examples might be French toast. I thought that I was going to be saying goodbye to French toast forever, which was sad for me because we love doing breakfast for dinner at my house once a week. But I found very quickly as I started purchasing whole food plant-based and vegan cookbooks that you certainly can make an eggless French toast, and I was so happy. So that was a family favorite, and it still is to this day. I just needed to, there was a little bit of a learning curve of how to prepare it in a plant-based way without egg and cow's milk. So look for those things that you think, I could probably find a whole food plant-based recipe of this that is pretty dang close to what my family's used to, but it's just going to take a little bit of research on your part and a little bit of experimenting. Another great example of this is tacos. We would have regular Taco Tuesdays, and growing up too, I always had ground beef tacos, and we would use kind of that prepackaged seasoning packet, and that was just a usual meal for us. So a really simple way to shift this is instead of using ground beef in your taco, you can use half black beans, half brown rice, or you could use quinoa, or you could use any kind of bean. You could get really creative here, but whatever types of plant-based foods that you're kind of used to or you think your family would tolerate, then you can either swap those out 100%, or I've talked to a lot of people that have cut the amount of ground beef in half at first and just introduced the idea of doing maybe it's half ground beef and half black beans, and then the exact same flavor profile, the exact same seasonings that their family's used to, and they meet very little complaints with taco night. That is a really simple way to shift that, okay? So those are the sort of things I want you to look for on your list of your go-to recipes. Find those ones, highlight them in yellow, that, okay, these are just ones that I need to do a little research of recipes to swap these out and a little bit of experimenting, okay? Sound good? So the next one is the hard one. I know most people think that like your entire list just has to be crumpled and thrown out the window, but I'm telling you, you might be surprised that there's only going to be a handful of items on your list that you are going to feel like, yeah, this one just needs to go. And so that's what we're going to pull out our red highlighter or our red pen with, and we are going to go ahead and create kind of a hit list there too of, you know, these recipes just aren't going to be on the menu anymore. So some examples for my family were just dishes that were super focused on meat or super focused on cheese. We used to make barbecue chicken all the time, and I didn't see an easy way without introducing like seitan or tofu to create a shift with that to a plant-based version. And my husband, he specifically requested, he said, don't create fake stuff. Don't like try to make it just like the old thing, but bring this totally new thing like tofu or seitan into the picture. And I respected that. And so we have found other ways to just like let things go that need to let go. Another example is grilled cheese sandwiches, cheese quesadillas, lasagna. Those things are just not on the menu at our house anymore. Now, I will comfort you with these words that there are ways to replace those in other ways as you are ready. My boys love having a quesadilla that doesn't have cheese at all, so we shouldn't even call it a quesadilla, but it just has refried beans on the inside, and they love that. I make grilled hummus and veggie sandwiches all the time, and if I've got some avocado or some guacamole in there, it is just as creamy and rich, and it like really kind of reminds me of that grilled cheese sandwich that I used to love so much. So there are ways that you can eventually introduce new plant-based options, but at first you may just want to cut the cord and say, you know, this just isn't on the menu anymore, and not try to compete, not try to make things taste the way they used to, because they won't. But if you give it some time, then maybe you can reintroduce some things that are similar and kind of remind you of that comfort food that you loved, but now it's a totally whole food plant-based version of it. So those are the things you're going to be looking for on your list to be highlighting in red, that those are the things you're going to be eventually just letting go of completely. Now, this is your starting point, okay? So you should have a very colorful piece of paper at this point, full of green light, yellow light, and red light meals. We're just talking about dinners for today. And now you can take those lists and you're going to create an action plan for yourself. Okay, and I would invite you to ask yourself 3 questions to kind of take your next step. And question number 1 is, how quickly do you feel that you and your family could start eliminating those items that were highlighted in red? What is that going to look like for your family? Are you just going to cut it off and be done right now? Or are there ingredients in your house that you're going to go ahead and use up and let people know of like, hey, when this mozzarella cheese is gone, that will probably be the last lasagna that we'll have for a while, like that sort of thing. Having some conversations like that can be good. And then the second question that I want you to ask yourself is, how quickly do you want to introduce new green list items? So again, looking back at your list, maybe you only had 3 or 4 plant-based meals that you highlighted in green. You need to add to that list, right? So I would invite you to consider, how many times a week do you want to be trying a new recipe to bring new things into the picture? I don't like to do more than 1 new recipe a week. That's just the time and energy that I have. And also consider that sometimes things are going to bomb and your spouse or your children are going to hate it, and you might even hate it. So give yourself space to maybe just do that as often as you think you can handle it and not get too discouraged. Now, I could give you lots of ideas. We can continue to discuss inside the Facebook group of what are those new meals that you added or that you think you would like to add now that you're thinking for more whole food plant-based meals. We can maybe discuss that some more inside of our group today. So that's the second question. How quickly are you going to introduce new recipes? And then the last question is, how quickly are you willing to start shifting and experimenting with those yellow light recipes? Remember, those are ones that just need a few switches. Maybe you're letting go of the chicken that was in your chicken noodle soup and you're bringing in chickpeas, or maybe you're letting go of the ground beef in your spaghetti recipe, and maybe you're going to try just sprinkling some diced mushrooms with some lentils. You know, how often do you want to be experimenting with that? Is that also maybe once a week? Okay, so as you line that out, you should be able to create the next couple weeks worth of menus for yourself. You can use the system that I taught you in last week's video and I would really encourage you to create a 2 to 4 week plan if you can, just so that you know that this is heading in the direction that you want to go. It's going to set you up to be trying and introducing new recipes, experimenting and making some shifts with those yellow light recipes, and slowly letting go of those red light recipes that just aren't going to be in the picture anymore. Do you see how that could really set you up? I know some people don't really like the structure and the planning of that, but I really encourage you to give it a shot, or even create your own version of this idea, because it really helped me a lot, and I've seen it help my coaching clients a lot as well. So that is pretty much all I have for you today. I would just end with a reminder, keep this, as you make your plan, please keep it realistic. Think in real life terms of your time, your energy, your family, real life. Don't get so ambitious with this that you're going to be putting too much on too fast on yourself, because I know a lot of this falls squarely on our shoulders, especially as the mothers and the women in the household that do all the grocery shopping and do all the meal prepping. So be kind to yourself, get specific in your plan, and find a way to hold yourself accountable, okay? It's the biggest benefit of having a coach, right? Is having someone following up with you on the commitment that you made. So find a way to do that. The last thought that I have for you is, I know a lot of us meet with a lot of resistance from our children or from our spouse, and I will be doing some videos upcoming with that to help you work through that. So I just invite you to have some conversations and handle this as gently as you can, and above all, just share with them your why you want to do this, and you want to remind yourself of this too. For me, I stick to this way of eating because it makes me feel so strong and energetic, and I don't feel heavy. I don't feel lethargic after I eat. I feel energized after I eat, and I love that feeling, and that is what keeps me from going back to those old foods. So find your why, find something that keeps you going, and just create that plan and start taking action. So that's all for today. Again, if you haven't joined us inside of our private Facebook group yet, look us up, Journey to Healthy Living with Danielle Dinkelman. I would love to have you join us, and have a fantastic Friday. Bye-bye.